All right, let's dive in, folks. Today, it's all about battery monitoring systems.
Ah, battery monitoring systems.
Yeah, you think about electric vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
renewable energy storage, backup power. Like, honestly,
Batteries are everywhere.
yeah, they really are everywhere.
They are fundamental to our lives.
Absolutely.
More and more so every day.
And the thing is, to make these batteries actually work well, to make them efficient,
Safe.
safe, long-lasting.
You got to have a system to keep an eye on them.
Right, that's where battery monitoring systems, or BMS, comes in.
BMS, yeah.
So we're going to really unpack this whole world.
Yeah, figure out who the big players are.
Who's doing what, what's driving this whole market.
What are they doing that's new?
Exactly. And to help us do that, we've got a fantastic report, actually,
Oh, yeah.
from Cognitive Market Research.
I've seen this one. This is good.
It came out in December 2024, so it's pretty recent.
Very up to date.
Yeah. And it gives us some pretty compelling numbers right off the bat.
Oh, lay 'em on me.
So in 2024, the market for BMS, this is a $4.5 billion market.
That's not small potatoes.
No, not at all.
That's significant.
But here's the thing. By 2032, it's projected to hit almost $15 billion,
Wow.
with a compound annual growth rate of over 16%.
That is some serious growth.
Yeah.
So that tells you something right there.
That tells you that there's
There's a lot of demand.
a lot of innovation happening.
A lot of interest in this space.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes sense, right? Because the more we rely on batteries, the more important it is to manage them properly.
To get the most out of them.
Exactly.
So let's jump into who are the big players in this market.
All right, let's name some names.
The report names actually the top 5 manufacturing companies right now.
Okay, the big 5.
And some of these are names you might recognize.
I'd be surprised if he didn't, frankly.
Yeah, we're talking about Texas Instruments,
TI,
ABB,
Switzerland,
Schneider Electric,
Yep.
General Electric, GE,
OSA,
and Hitachi Energy.
another global player.
So let's kind of unpack what each of these companies brings to the table.
All right, one by one.
Let's start with Texas Instruments.
All right, TI, good place to start.
Yeah.
Headquartered in Dallas, Texas, as you might expect. And they've got this deep expertise in both analog and digital semiconductor technology.
Now, remind me, what's the distinction there again?
Sure. So analog technology,
Uh-huh.
this is about dealing with continuous signals, like temperature or voltage, things that are always changing.
Yeah.
Digital tech, on the other hand, that's processing information as discrete values, ones and zeros.
Okay, so TI has got both of these bases covered.
They do.
So they can both measure the battery data
With high precision, yes.
and then analyze it intelligently
Exactly. That's their strength.
to figure out what's going on.
Yep.
Okay, and they focus specifically
They do.
on power management solutions.
Primarily for electric vehicles, industrial machinery, and renewable energy storage.
Oh, so they're all over those key battery-heavy industries.
They are.
Gotcha.
They're well positioned.
Now, the report highlights
It does.
their reputation for, low power, high accuracy solutions.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
You don't want your monitoring system.
Draining the battery.
Exactly. That would be counterproductive.
You're trying to monitor.
Defeats the purpose entirely.
And it seems like they're really doing well financially, too.
Oh, yeah. They're a major player.
Yeah, their total revenue in 2023 was $17.52 billion.
Billions with a B.
And a big chunk of that was from their power management division.
Which includes BMS, yeah.
So they're clearly not messing around.
Not at all. They're committed.
And the report actually gives some specific examples of their innovations in this area.
I'm always interested in the specifics.
Like they mentioned the BQ304Z100G
Catchy name.
and the BQ40SVIL50R1.
Okay, so what are those?
So those are integrated circuits.
The heart of the system. Yeah. So what do they do?
Well, the BQ334Z100G, that one acts as a fuel gauge.
Oh, okay. So it tells you how much juice you got left.
Exactly. And it manages the battery, the IC part.
That's keeping track of everything.
Keeps track of everything.
Making sure it's running smoothly.
Yeah. And then the BQ40Z50R1.
That's a mouthful.
I know, but this one's designed for managing multi-cell battery packs.
Which are common in EVs.
Yeah, electric vehicles.
So clearly they're targeting that market.
Absolutely. They're really focused.
Very specialized.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's TI.
That's Texas Instruments.
Who's next on our list?
All right, let's move on to ABB.
ABB.
Based in Zurich, Switzerland.
A global powerhouse.
Yeah, they operate in over 100 countries.
Wow.
They are leaders in electrification and automation.
Which seems like a natural fit for BMS.
Yeah, it's like it all kind of flows together.
That's absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting with ABB is how they integrate BMS
Okay, how so?
into their broader power management and automation systems.
Interesting. So it's not just about the battery itself.
It's not just about keeping an eye on the battery. It's about
the bigger picture.
optimizing performance.
And within a larger system.
Yeah, so we're talking
Grid scale storage, EV fleets, industrial processes, you name it.
Yeah, and they're clearly making some serious money in those areas.
Oh yeah, what are the numbers?
Well, their sales in 2023 were a whopping $32.24 billion.
That's massive.
Yeah, with electrification and automation being major drivers.
No surprise there.
Now, the report really emphasizes their commitment to enhancing battery lifespan,
getting the most out of them,
optimizing charging,
smart charging, very important,
and critically improving safety.
Yes, can't forget about that.
Preventing things like overcharging and thermal runaway.
That's where things can get dangerous.
That's where it gets scary.
Yeah.
They even have this innovation.
Oh, tell me more.
It's called the ABB Ability Battery Energy Storage System.
ABB Ability, that sounds like a comprehensive solution.
It is, yeah. It combines advanced software and hardware to deliver optimal energy management within storage systems.
So it's like orchestrating the flow of energy in and out.
Yeah, and it really shows their strength in merging those digital and physical technology.
Bridging that gap.
Yeah.
Okay, so ABB, they're all about that integration.
They are.
All right, who's next?
Next up is Schneider Electric.
Okay.
Headquartered in France.
French company.
Yeah, another multinational giant.
Another one.
Specializing in energy management and automation.
Sounds familiar.
But they have this really strong emphasis on sustainability.
Which feels very relevant to the future of batteries.
Totally, it's all connected.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And their BMS solutions are all about that.
Okay, how so?
They're recognized for their contribution to sustainable energy practices. And they work across a bunch of applications.
Such as?
Energy storage, industrial equipment, electric vehicles.
Okay, so the usual suspects.
Yeah, and they brought in a solid $39.67 billion in 2023.
Wow, that's a healthy revenue.
Yeah, so they're clearly a force to be reckoned with.
No doubt about it.
Now, some key features that the report points out about their BMS.
I'm all ears.
They've got remote monitoring.
That's handy.
Predictive maintenance capabilities.
Staying ahead of the problems.
Yeah, and early fault detection.
Catching those issues before they become big issues.
Which is huge, right?
Absolutely. You want to minimize downtime.
You don't want things breaking down.
Especially in critical systems.
And all of that really supports their commitment to green energy.
It all ties together.
Right.
Yeah.
By making those systems more efficient and reliable.
They're making them more sustainable.
Exactly.
Smart.
All right. Let's move on to our fourth major player. General Electric.
GE, an American icon.
GE, yeah. Based in Boston.
Been around forever.
They're a diversified industrial company.
They do a bit of everything.
But with a huge history in the energy and power sectors.
Yeah. Energy is in their DNA.
So it makes sense that they'd be big in battery management.
Absolutely. No surprise there.
And their focus tends to be on, the larger scale applications.
Okay, so what are we talking about?
Like grid-level energy storage.
Big systems.
Industrial backup power.
Keeping the lights on.
And integrating renewable energy sources.
All the big stuff.
Yeah.
Makes sense for GE.
What's really interesting about them is how they tie BMS into their digital twin and industrial IoT platforms.
Now that's cutting edge.
Yeah.
So they're bringing in the digital world.
They are?
To manage the physical.
So explain digital twins for me, because I'm still not quite sure I get it.
Right. So a digital twin, it's basically a virtual replica of the physical battery system.
Oh, interesting.
So you can run simulations, you can test things out.
Without messing with the real thing.
Exactly. Without risking damage to the actual hardware.
And that's all connected through IoT. The Internet of Things.
Yeah, so all the data is flowing back and forth.
So they have a very complete view of what's going on.
It's a very detailed and dynamic view.
And they can optimize the performance.
Exactly.
And just to give you an idea of how big they are in this space.
Yeah, what are their numbers?
Their energy and power segment pulled in almost $68 billion in 2023.
That's just energy and power, not even their other businesses.
Energy and power.
Wow.
And battery storage and management are a big part of that.
Clearly a major focus for them.
The report even mentions their Grid Solutions platform.
Grid Solutions.
Which leverages advanced analytics.
So they're really data-driven.
Yeah, almost pretty.
They're using data to anticipate problems.
Yeah.
Very smart.
So GE is definitely a major player to watch.
A big player with a big vision.
All right, last but not least, we have Hitachi Energy.
Hitachi, another global player.
Yep, a subsidiary of Hitachi Ltd.
Based in Zurich, alongside ABB, actually.
It's interesting how many of these companies are clustered in Switzerland.
Switzerland seems to be a hub for this kind of technology.
Yeah, maybe something in the water.
Maybe.
But anyway, Hitachi, they're another leader in energy management and automation.
A familiar theme.
Yeah, but they're really all about delivering both reliable and sustainable energy solutions.
That's the sweet spot, isn't it?
It is, and their BMS solutions are a key part of that.
Okay, so where do they fit in?
They're really focused on integrating renewable energy sources, supporting electric vehicle infrastructure,
smart grids,
and enabling large-scale grid storage solutions.
Okay, so they're playing across the board.
Yeah, they're very comprehensive.
Seems to be a trend with these big players.
And they really emphasize intelligent energy management.
Using data to make smart decisions?
Yep, to maximize performance, extend lifespan, and ensure safety.
The trifecta.
And they have this key innovation that the report highlights. It's their, it's called the Hitachi Energy Battery Management System.
Oh, it's straightforward enough.
I know, not very catchy.
Gets the point across.
But it's specifically designed to work with smart grids.
Ah, and that's interesting.
Which I think is really forward-thinking.
Absolutely.
Because our energy infrastructure is getting more and more interconnected.
And Hitachi is positioning themselves to be a leader in that space.
They are.
Very smart.
So those are our top 5.
The heavy hitters of BMS.
The heavy hitters. But now I'm curious, how did the report decide these were the top companies?
Yeah, good question. What were their criteria?
What were they looking at?
I mean, there are a lot of companies out there.
Yeah, so how did they narrow it down to these 5?
Right.
Well, the report actually lays out some key criteria.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, first and foremost, they looked at revenue and market share.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because higher revenue, that usually means
more customers.
More customers.
More demand.
Yeah, and market share shows you
how much of the pie they control.
Yeah, how much of the market they've captured.
Their dominance.
Exactly.
So that's a good starting point.
It is, but it's not the whole story, right?
No, there's more to it than just money.
So what else were they considering?
Well, they looked at the breadth and quality of the company's product portfolios.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So it's about the variety of BMS solutions they offer for different applications, like EVs, renewable energy storage, industrial uses, all that.
So they need to have a wide range of products.
Yeah, they need to be able to cater to different needs.
To serve different markets.
Exactly. And it's not just about having a lot of products.
It's about the quality, too, right?
Absolutely. They need to be high-quality, reliable products.
That actually do what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Okay, and so what specifically were they looking at in terms of quality?
Well, they considered the product's ability to monitor critical parameters.
Okay, well...
battery health, temperature, voltage levels, state of charge.
All the vital signs.
Exactly.
So they need to be able to track all that stuff accurately.
Precisely.
And reliably.
Yes.
Okay, anything else they were looking at in terms of the product portfolio?
Yeah, they also looked at how well these BMS solutions could be integrated into larger systems.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's not just about the battery in isolation.
It's about how it fits into the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Like, how does it work with the car's overall energy management system?
Or with the grid, or with whatever industrial process it's part of.
Exactly.
Integration is key.
And then, of course, they were looking at the technological sophistication of the products. So, like, are they using the latest and greatest technology?
Are they innovating?
Yeah.
Are they pushing the boundaries?
Are they coming up with new and better ways to monitor batteries?
Exactly, because this is a rapidly evolving field.
So you got to stay ahead of the curve.
You got to be on the cutting edge.
All right, so we've got revenue, market share, product portfolio.
What else?
Well, the report also looked at their investment in research and development.
R&D, that's essential.
Yeah, because the companies that are putting money into R&D...
they're the ones who are going to drive the future.
They're the ones who are going to come up with the next big thing.
Exactly.
So the report was looking for companies that are committed to innovation.
Companies that are investing in the future.
Yeah, and that's not just about coming up with new ideas.
It's about developing those ideas.
It's about turning those ideas into real-world solutions.
And it's about constantly improving those solutions.
So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, R&D is never finished.
Always looking for ways to do things better.
Exactly.
All right, so we've covered revenue, market share, product portfolio, R&D.
What else?
Well, they also looked at global presence and market reach.
Ah, so it's not just about being big in your own backyard.
No, you got to be thinking globally.
Global ambition.
Yeah, because the companies that have a strong international footprint,
they're the ones who are going to be able to capitalize on opportunities around the world.
yeah, they can tap into different markets.
They can adapt their solutions to different needs.
They can build relationships with partners all over the globe.
Global reach is essential in this market.
Absolutely. And speaking of partnerships,
yes,
that was another criterion that the report looked at.
Strategic alliances, yeah.
Because having strong collaborations with other key players,
like EV manufacturers, energy providers, industrial users,
it can really give you a competitive advantage.
Yeah, you can leverage each other's strengths.
You can co-develop new solutions.
You can reach new markets.
So it's really about building those strong relationships.
Partnerships are essential.
All right, so that gives us a pretty good understanding of how the report identified those top 5 companies.
A pretty rigorous evaluation process.
Yeah, they really dug deep.
They weren't just picking names out of a hat.
No, they were looking at a wide range of factors.
A holistic view.
To determine who the real leaders are.
The cream of the crop.
The cream of the crop. But as you know, the market's always changing.
Always evolving.
And there are always new players emerging.
Up-and-comers trying to challenge the status quo.
And the report actually highlights some of these emerging threats.
Oh, this is where it gets interesting.
The companies that are nipping at the heels of those top 5.
The ones to watch.
Yeah, so who are these potential disruptors?
Well, the report mentions a few.
Okay, lay them on me.
There's IoT Power Solutions.
Okay.
HBL Power Systems.
Right.
Batterydaq.
Interesting game.
Benchmark Electronics. And Curtis Instruments.
So let's dive into each of these companies.
One by one.
And see what makes them a threat to those established players.
Let's see what they've got.
All right, let's start with Eagle Eye Power Solutions.
Eagle Eye, okay.
What's their deal?
So they're based in the U.S.
Okay.
And they're making a name for themselves with their advanced BMS designed for large-scale energy storage.
So they're going after those big projects.
Yeah, the grid, big industrial applications.
Gotcha. And what are their strengths?
Well, they have deep expertise in power systems.
Okay, that's a good foundation.
Yeah, and they're really focused on real-time monitoring.
So they can see what's happening with the battery as it's happening?
Exactly. No delays.
And they're also big on predictive analytics.
Using data to anticipate problems before they occur.
Very smart.
Very forward-thinking.
And it seems like they're not content with just sticking to large-scale storage.
No, they're branching out.
They're expanding into the EV and renewable energy markets.
Smart move.
Yeah, those are the growth areas.
Absolutely.
So they're taking their expertise and applying it to new markets.
Leveraging their strengths.
Makes sense.
It does.
All right, let's move on to HBL Power Systems.
HBL.
Okay.
What about them? So they're based in India.
Okay.
And they're a leader in BMS for industrial applications.
So both traditional and renewable energy.
Yeah, they're covering all the bases.
Okay, so they're not just focused on the new stuff.
No, they're serving existing markets as well.
And they're involved in grid storage, telecom infrastructure, UPS systems.
Keeping things running.
Keeping the lights on.
Yeah, essential stuff.
And what makes them stand out?
Well, they're known for their cost-effective solutions.
Ah, so they're competitive on price.
Very much so.
Which is important.
Especially in price-sensitive markets.
Yeah, and they're also doing a lot of R&D in advanced battery tech.
So they're not just resting on their laurels.
They're pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, they're investing in the future.
And they have a strong presence in the Asia-Pacific region and the Middle East.
High-growth markets?
Yeah, those are the markets to be in right now.
Absolutely.
So HBL is definitely one to watch.
Cost-effective, innovative, and well-positioned.
All right, next up is Batterydaq.
Batterydaq, that's an interesting name.
It is. It kind of gives you a clue about what they're all about.
Data, I'm guessing.
Data.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So tell me more.
So they're a U.S.-based company.
Okay.
And they're all about using IoT and AI, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the latest and greatest.
To provide really detailed real-time data on battery health.
So they're bringing in the big guns.
They are.
To monitor those batteries.
And what are they focusing on?
Predictive maintenance and early fault detection.
So again, it's about anticipating problems.
Before they become big problems.
And preventing downtime.
Exactly.
Which is crucial.
Absolutely.
And they're targeting EVs, energy storage, telecom.
The usual suspects.
Yeah, the big battery-heavy industries.
Makes sense.
So it's their use of data.
Through IoT and AI.
That really sets them apart.
Yeah, they're all about the data.
They're the data experts.
The battery whisperers.
All right, let's move on to Benchmark Electronic.
Benchmark, okay.
What's their story?
So They're a little different from the others.
Okay, how so?
Their core expertise is in electronics manufacturing
Okay.
and engineering services.
So they're not just a BMS company,
No, they're more broad-based.
but they do offer BMS solutions.
They do, yeah.
And they're focused on providing integrated hardware and software solutions.
So they cover both sides of the equation.
Yeah, they're a one-stop shop.
Makes things easier for the customer.
And they serve a wide range of markets.
From consumer electronics to industrial equipment?
So they're not just focused on the big energy stuff?
No, they're more diversified.
And what are their key strengths?
Well, they have a strong track record in precision engineering.
Okay, so their products are well-built.
High quality.
Reliable.
Yeah, they know how to make things that work.
And they also have really good supply chain management.
So they can get the components they need.
When they need to.
Yeah, even in a tight market.
Which is important these days.
Very important.
And they have partnerships with companies in the energy and auto sectors.
So they're well connected.
Yeah, they're plugged in.
They know the right people.
So Benchmark is definitely a company to keep an eye on.
They're bringing a different set of skills to the table.
Yeah, a different perspective.
But they're a serious player nonetheless.
All right, last but not least, we have Curtis Instruments.
Curtis Instruments, okay.
What about them?
So they've been around for a while.
Okay, so they're an established player.
Yeah, they have a good reputation.
And they're focused on BMS for EVs and industrial applications.
The core markets.
Yeah, and what do they do particularly well?
Well, they're really strong on diagnostics.
Okay, so they can really figure out what's going on with the battery.
Yeah, they can pinpoint problems.
And they offer comprehensive performance monitoring.
Tracking all the key metrics.
And they're big on energy management solutions.
Helping customers get the most out of their batteries.
And they're doing really well in the EV market.
Yeah, they're gaining traction.
They're integrating their BMS into new EV platforms.
So they're riding the wave of EV adoption.
Exactly.
Smart move.
So Curtis Instruments is another company that's worth watching.
They're a solid player with a proven track record.
And they're clearly adapting to the changing market.
Absolutely.
So that's our rundown of the emerging threats.
The companies that are shaking things up.
The challengers to the throne.
The ones to watch.
But now I'm curious. For new companies that are looking to enter this market.
Yeah, the startups.
What advice does the report give them?
How can they succeed in such a competitive landscape?
What do they need to do to make their mark?
Well, the report lays out some key guidelines.
Okay, let's hear them.
First and foremost, they need to focus on developing advanced and cost-effective technologies.
So it's not enough to just have a good product.
It's got to be cutting edge.
It's got to be better than what's already out there.
And it's got to be affordable.
Because there's a lot of competition.
The market is crowded.
So what specific technologies should they be focusing on?
Well, the report mentions smart real-time monitoring systems.
Okay, so being able to see what's happening with the battery as it's happening.
Yeah, no delays.
And seamless integration with IoT and AI platforms.
Using data to make the systems smarter.
Yeah, to make it more predictive.
To anticipate problems.
And maybe even exploring wireless monitoring capabilities.
Cutting the cord.
Yeah, making it more flexible.
More convenient.
So the goal is to offer enhanced performance.
Better accuracy.
More sophisticated predictive maintenance features.
And all at a competitive price.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
It is. It's a balancing act.
But it's essential for success.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's the technology side of things. What else does the report recommend?
Well, they also talk about targeting emerging markets.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Go where the growth is.
Yeah, where the demand is highest.
Exactly.
And where are those markets?
Well, the report specifically mentions the Asia-Pacific region.
Okay.
Particularly China and India.
Those are huge markets.
Massive.
With a lot of potential.
And they're seeing rapid growth in EV adoption, renewable energy deployment, and industrial expansion.
So there's a huge demand.